Okay, I'm sorry I'm a little bit late, but I screwed up and checked the injury report right before we came on, and I checked the wrong injury report, and I freaked out a little bit because I thought all of a sudden Titus Howard was back in the concussion protocol or something. He is not, but another couple guys still are in the concussion protocol. This is DeMeco Ryans today.
To start, just with injury updates, CJ and Jalen will be out. Both guys are progressing. They're doing better. But right now with the short turnaround, game on Thursday, just don't have enough days for those guys to be available. All right, I'm done.
All right, DeMeco, I'm not in a laughing mood about this, okay? Thursday Night Football kind of screwed us over here, and this is that's a whole nother rant about Thursday Night Football and how hard it is for quarterbacks to come back. If it's a 1 week, it's almost impossible. This is starting to get into not uncharted territory, but lightly charted territory when it comes to quarterbacks missing 3 games. I think CJ, because he was limited at practice, probably would have cleared concussion protocol and would have played after a 2-week absence, much like the one he had in 2023. But it is his second bout with concussions. That's a whole topic for the offseason, hopefully, or what have you. It's Davis Mills again, and Davis Mills is 2-0 as your starter. Whenever your backup quarterback comes in and you can get a couple of wins, that's never a bad thing. The Titans game offensively was a lot of some of the old doldrums we'd seen from the offense. I'm going to bring up the red zone stats here, and I'm not blaming Davis for it specifically because Davis had a couple nice drives that ended either in field goals or with 0 points, partly because of sacks on third downs or an inability to run the football versus a really stout interior defensive line for the Titans. But here are the red zone stats, just so we know what we're up against here, okay? Here are the red zone rankings. Right up there at the top, you see Indianapolis, Buffalo, Kansas City. They're all in the top 7 of red zone. Don't strain your eyeballs going all the way down to 31. The Texans are better than only the New Orleans Saints in the red zone. And I know we'll get a lot of Bills people watching this video because Bills fans are just absolutely ravenous for anything related to the Bills. And I appreciate their psychosis. They're kind of psychotic in a good way. But as frustrated as Bills fans are with their top 5 scoring offense, the Texans have been able to move the ball and they've gotten better at it. They just have these red zone woes. The rushing offense in the blocking and the offensive line in general has improved. But at the end of the day, when they go up against stout defensive fronts, like we saw last week, they just can't get the push and the movement that they need on the interior. The Bills, we'll get to the Bills defense, but the Bills do not present nearly as big a challenge in terms of stuffing the run. I know the Titans defense doesn't rank all that well. When they have both T'Vondre Sweat and Jeffrey Simmons in there at the same time, they were a literal headache for the Texans. And Joe Mixon, by the way, we talked to Nick Serio today. I'm very pessimistic about Joe Mixon coming back. Davis Mills did some really good things in this game last week, and I just want to revisit that 3rd and 16 conversion that he made to Nico Collins because it was just beautiful. Let's see. Oh, I didn't add it, so let's add it first, old Sethers. This is on the final drive, 3rd and 16, Davis Mills just hits it right between the safety and the cornerback in cover 2. And I want you to see just like how little margin for error there was there. And Davis, the 2 things that he's done really well is I think on 3rd and longs, he's made some really nice passes. He's gotten rid of the ball quickly too. He's in about the top 5 over the last couple weeks in terms of speediest to throw, quickest to throw. And it's when he gets to the 2nd or the 3rd read that he hasn't been nearly as good. But when he's seeing the field well and getting rid of the ball quickly, he does a good job with it. What I worry about with the Bills is that the Bills do have, despite their run defense woes, their passing defense is really good. Now that teams are seeing the way Davis Mills is operating, are they able to take away that first read? That's the big cat and mouse game that we're going to see tonight. Jalen Petrie being out is a whole nother set of issues, obviously. Let's stay focused, Seth. We're going to stick with the Bills offense. Here's DeMeco on the Bills defense. We're going to stick with the Texans offense. Here's DeMeco on the Bills defense.
With their defense, I think they play fast. Like they're going to have a lot of change-ups, a lot of different calls. They do a good job of mixing things very well, making it look the same. So they do a good job of disguising their calls. Those guys, they play fast. Good guys on the edges with Bosa, Russo, and then inside, they're nickel, they're backers. They're smaller guys, but they play fast. They play physical. They attack the football really well as a defense. They've done a really nice job of forcing fumbles. We have to do a really even better job of protecting the ball, whoever touches it.
Yeah, I mean they're in that same brand of defense that guys like DeMeco Ryans are. Where they guys, you can tell those guys on defense really care about it. They fly around. Ed Oliver is out for the year. They just don't necessarily have the run stuffers or the mass and the health in the middle to stop the run. So when the Texans have faced bad run defenses, they've done it as the offensive line has improved. They've done a pretty good job of steadily running the ball, and I think they will in this game. The reasons why the Bills are favored so substantially well they're on the road this week has a lot to do with Josh Allen and James Cook, and we'll get to that in a minute. But the other thing that Davis has been doing really well has been spreading the ball around. Here's Davis talking about Jaden Higgins, the rookie wide receiver.
Yeah, I mean, he's a stud. He's shown up a lot and kind of big-time moments when you need a big-time play.
Hold on a second. Hold on.
Consistent.
Hold on. I want to show you the one where Davis has got the highlights. Here we go.
Yeah, I mean, he's a stud. He's shown up a lot and kind of big-time moments when you need a big-time play. He consistently finds a way to beat the guy who's covering him. And when you have one guy like Nico on one side and a guy who basically is super similar to Nico with some kind of different things at the line he's able to do and some different looks he's able to find in the defense, it's an awesome target to have on the other side of the ball or even on the same side when they can complement each other.
I think it's interesting that Nico's been able to Davis has been able to find Nico a lot more steadily, and last week was really efficient. The first week we were worried that he was forcing the ball to Nico too much. He wasn't really an efficient catch to target ratio. Last week, Nico had 9 receptions on 10 targets. It was incredibly efficient. But I think a lot of people, when they think of Davis Mills, they think like, oh yeah, he seems like an Eastern philosophy type of guy. There's like a little bit of a Zen quality to, hey, when you don't try so hard to get it to Nico, all of a sudden things open up for Nico because Davis has a real good feel for, all right, the defense is going to try to take Nico away. We're going to hit Jaden Higgins. We're going to hit Jalen Noel. We're going to hit everybody else. And then lo and behold, he's got his opportunities for Nico. And I think that's worked out really well. I don't expect like an all-pro performance or anything, but I think Davis is going to have a solid performance versus the Bills. If we get over to the defensive side of the ball for the Texans, James Cook, who is criminally ignored at times by Joe Brady, especially in the passing game, but James Cook, the running back, does a really good job executing their outside zone runs and everything they like to build off of that.
Yeah, James does a really good job, I think, of really when they're running the outside zone, he presses his blocks really well. So when he cuts it back with speed, just has a really good feel for the zone scheme that they run. And he has a really good feel for just finding that open area.
Seth.
They do a good job of running.
Look at, you know what, Seth? This is pathetic. I have to give myself 3 demerits on this one. Let's see. I need DeMeco on James Cook. Or what the hell are you doing? There we go. Here we go. Watch James Cook here.
Yeah, James does a really good job, I think, of really when they're running the outside zone, he presses his blocks really well. So when he cuts it back with speed, just has a really good feel for the zone scheme that they run. And he has a really good feel for just finding that open area. They do a good job of running off the ball from the offensive line, and he hits it fast and aggressive, and he's a tough tackle. So it's going to take, how we play anyway, it's going to take everybody getting to the ball, swarming the football, just multiple hats, trying to surround him as best we can to get him down.
So, look, James Cook, especially in the passing game, and the rest of their receivers, other than Khalil Shakir, this last week, I think you saw a lot of those guys get involved, but Josh Allen also had to play a lot of hero ball in this game. When the Bills played the Chiefs, it seemed like Josh stayed more in system, on schedule, all of that, got rid of the ball quickly. I think that's what they'll probably try to do, especially if you think about last week's game with the Texans versus the Titans. Cam Ward early on was getting rid of the ball really quickly, and it was working. You know, the Texans were kind of bleeding a little, and then Cam Ward just couldn't connect on some of the intermediate and deeper shots. If Josh Allen were trying to make those throws that Cam Ward was missing on, probably would have made him. And this is where Jalen Petrie being out, I'm not as concerned about the wide receiving core of the Bills as I will be about some of the teams coming up here very shortly. But when Josh Allen's able to hit those guys, and as the Texans are playing a lot of match coverage, and you start off in zone and then go to man, there's opportunities for him to get rid of the ball quickly. And then especially, Josh will be the first top 10 rushing quarterback that the Texans have faced, and quarterbacks running the ball, especially in the fourth quarter or at very inopportune times, has been one of the things that's hurt the Texans defense. I think Josh Allen just being willing to pull the ball down and run pretty liberally, even if it's not for huge chunk yardage or anything, that's going to be a challenge that the Texans haven't quite faced. Josh Allen has the second most rushing yards in the league right now amongst quarterbacks. And I would really say he's got the most amongst quarterbacks because Justin Fields is the top one, and we don't know if he's even a quarterback anymore. Texans defense, for anybody that looks and sees that, man, the Texans defense is awesome. Their one big glaring weakness, and it feels like an oddity, but it's there, is just that they have not been a good red zone defense. And Josh Allen, meanwhile, has the most rushing touchdowns amongst quarterbacks in the league. I think Trevor Lawrence is second there, and the Texans did a pretty good job of accounting for his running ability down on the goal line. They have there's some carryover between the way Trevor Lawrence operates in the red zone and Josh Allen. Where's the defensive red zone? Here we go. All right, so Buffalo's 12th, and the Texans are 28th in red zone defense. A couple things factor into that. I think, for one, again, talking about the match coverage that they play, there's a little space for guys to operate, but then also the Texans pass rush, which is very much a strength. And don't look at any of these bullshit pressure rates or anything. These things are determined by GPS, and it's garbage. Like, the Texans are way better than some of these GPS determined pressure rates would tell you, where they have them ranked as like 15th or 16th. Nobody who watches the games thinks that. And that's not just in Houston. That's outside of Houston as well. Just people watching the game can see, okay, they're making quarterbacks uncomfortable. Will Anderson and Daniil Hunter especially. But when you get down into the red zone, that pass rush doesn't help as much because everything develops a lot faster. So that's really the one weakness of the Texans right now defensively, is this curiosity of them being, I think people would be calling them a bend but don't break defense, except that they're so good at it that there's very little breaking. They're the leading scoring defense in the league. But some of those weaknesses do show up on the rare occurrences when they do allow somebody down into the red zone. And Josh Allen's going to be a big headache for that. I think Landry today asked a question about using a spy on Josh Allen, and this is what DeMeco said. And Landry prefaced it by saying, yeah, like, I know we in the media and the fans love to say, why don't you just put a spy on Josh Allen?
Yeah, each scheme has their own philosophy of how they use a spy, and I know it's easy for everybody to just say, "Oh, spy the quarterback," but what are you doing? You're standing there watching him throw the ball, or what are you actually doing with that spy player? But I won't get into specifics of what we're doing, but some teams use it, it works well. Some teams use it doesn't. It's just what's your personnel? How do you attack their scheme, and what are you looking to accomplish by using a spy?
Okay, as I saw a few of you note, the Texans have had some issues and troubles tackling at times too, which is there's nothing more frustrating when you use a spy, which means you're wasting a guy in terms of coverage, and you're wasting a guy who's not rushing the passer. You got to be selective in it, but then especially if the guy who's spying the quarterback can't tackle the quarterback. Let's just say we'd prefer that E.J. Speed be the spy compared to, say, Henry To'oTo'o. Then it's triply frustrating. You have to be selective in how you use it, because that's why when you have a guy spy the quarterback, he's not rushing the passer. He's kind of half in coverage, but not really. And a good quarterback like Josh Allen can take advantage of it when you're using a spy. It's the same dynamic as a running quarterback on designed QB runs, where it kind of gives you an extra man advantage on offense because you get an extra blocker out of it. in the pass game, it's the same. So the Texans, I think, and DeMeco, look, we obviously know he's pretty damn smart about this stuff. It'll be interesting to see the cat and mouse there when they choose to use a spy. I think sometimes I think they might tweak their coverages later in the game or on long down and distance situations to account for Josh Allen's scrambling ability. Because this is what happens. Guys they're in zone, it turns into man, and guys are plastering guys in the backfield are plastering their guy, and that's when a quarterback takes off, and you're just too slow to react to it. They gotta figure something out before Mahomes, Daniel Jones when he's not fumbling or throwing interceptions as of late, and then Josh Allen. Those are the three big challenges coming up. Boom, boom, boom. These next 3 weeks, the play action. Since we showed all those outside zones earlier, obviously you can set up boots with that. This is the pleasant surprise for me over the last couple of years was that the Texans had really struggled with play action versus good teams when DeMeco first got here, and I wanted them to get better. But now you look up, and they're actually one of the very best teams in the league against play action. So, and a lot of that's because the linebackers have gotten a lot smarter. They're really good with their reads. Their run pass keys. They're not biting hard on play action because they're recognizing that it's play action. So that part of it, I probably haven't talked about enough because I've always got a little bit of a hesitation with that. I'm always a little bit nervous, but they've done a really good job with that. This is a big test, big test this week. Let's see. Here's DeMeco on Josh Allen, since I've been blabbering about him for so long.
Yeah, we understand Josh is one of the most dynamic quarterbacks when it comes to like buying time and being able to escape the rush. Like he's big, physical guy. He can ward off defenders. And he can throw the ball as far as he needs to throw it. Like such an awesome arm talent, smart player, knows how to buy time. And it's not just him buying time. I think schematically they've done a good job of their receivers being tied into, all right, when he scrambles, right, where they're going. So it's not just backyard ball, right? It's very coordinated in what they do and where they are. So defensively for our guys, you have to keep rushing. You have to keep covering. However long it takes, you got to keep going, right? We know it's going to be extended plays. It's going to take time. He's going to buy time no matter what you do. You just have to be able to close it out by the D-line. If not, then if he puts the ball up, we expect our secondary guys to close it out and go up and make a play.
Okay, I'm having flashbacks to Bo Nix. So Baker Mayfield, Bo Nix, Cam Ward last week. We've seen on those final drives or penultimate drives, the quarterback scramble for some big plays, and that's where the discipline of the defensive line comes in. Bo Nix, it was multiple factors. One was just the play itself, but then also the defensive line and Henry To'oTo'o just got askew enough that they couldn't take care of him when he decided to pull the ball down and run. The discipline by the pass rush is a big one. And as far as what DeMeco said, where schematically they've done some good things, man, because I grew up in that region. Most of my relatives are Bills fans, and at least amongst my relatives, I don't want to speak for all Bills fans. I've been pretty harsh on Josh Allen this year, and for me, I'm put in the position where I'm kind of defending Josh Allen to my family, partly because it's hard to separate the coordinator from the quarterback, and I don't think that Joe Brady, the offensive coordinator, has been doing as much to scheme guys open. Like when he was at LSU, when you got Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase and everybody else, you can just kind of line guys up in ISO and they're going to go and win. You can't quite say that with this current group of receivers, and Khalil Shakir's on the inside. So how much of it is that Josh Allen's not really executing the offense versus the offensive coordinator being an issue? I mean, if you look at Josh Allen, how many quarterbacks would have had, Brian Daboll got the reputation as being some whiz kid after working with Josh Allen. I think that reputation has kind of gone out of the window. Ken Dorsey, and now Joe Brady is still trying to prove to people in Buffalo that he's really a good offensive coordinator. Like Josh Allen has not had yet, I don't think, an offensive coordinator that people feel awesome about, but he still gets the job done. And it's which version of Josh Allen are you going to see when he shows up at NRG Stadium? If you'll recall, last year's version didn't look so hot. That pass rush with that noise, and I'm anticipating a good crowd on Thursday Night Football. And we know even if it's not a huge crowd, and there's going to be a lot of Bills fans there, but it's going to be a good environment. And just like last year, they got the worst version of Josh Allen. Josh Allen didn't have Khalil Shakir in that game, and that's a big minus. But because Khalil Shakir, if you handle him with Derek Stingley or Kamari Lassiter, I still get worried about the guys they have on the outside. I worry about Josh Allen targeting Miles Bryant the same way Cam Ward was able to at times. So trying to disguise him with the absence of Jalen Petrie is going to be one of the big challenges in this game. So I'm going to try to cut it at 20 minutes, so I apologize for not getting to more comments. We'll meet up a little bit later, probably tomorrow, somewhere down the road. I got to stop making promises. Let's see. Finish.